are going to be interviewing Miss Cleary. What grade do you teach?
Well, so I actually work with all of the grades, kindergarten through 5th grade, because being a social worker, that's the best part. You get to work with kids in all different grades. But I work mostly with the 4th and the 5th graders.
What made you want to be a social worker?
That's a good question. You know, when I was younger, I always remember when people felt sad or they felt really mad that I always wanted to help them, whether I was giving them a hug or talking to them. So at a young age, I actually thought that I wanted to be a teacher. And then once I started helping people when they felt sad, I realized that I loved it. And then I decided to become a social worker so I can help people feel calm and happy and confident.
Good backstory.
Thank you.
Did you always want to be a social worker?
No, so when I was very, very little, I always wanted to be a teacher. And I wanted to be a teacher until probably I got to college. And then once I got to college, I was a little bit confused. I didn't know if I wanted to be a social worker or be a psychologist or be a teacher. I thought about being a nurse one time. That was only for one day I thought about that. And then I took some classes in social work and realized that I loved it. So I went from wanting to be a teacher to becoming a social worker. But it works because I am a feelings teacher. If you think about it, I teach about feelings.
What is your favorite book to read?
Oh, I love Pete the Cat. He is my all-time favorite. He is actually sitting on my little board in my classroom. I like the book, I Love My White Shoes, because I like to sing it with my kids. I also like the sunglasses one. That's one of my favorites. And the big cupcake. I have all of the Pete the Cat books that you could possibly have. He's my favorite.
How many students are in your class? Or like for the year, how many students do you have?
Ooh, you know, that's a good question, Aiden. If I had to guess, in terms of my groups, I would say I probably see about 60 students. And then I see a lot of students that will come in that I don't have in my group. So it's probably a pretty big number of what the whole mental health team gets to see. But I would say in my groups, probably about 50 to 60, maybe 65 kids.
What is your favorite subject to teach while you're social working?
My favorite, I have two favorites. Can I have two favorites? Is that okay?
Okay.
So one of my favorites is teaching about self-talk. So talking positive to yourself and saying, I am strong, I am brave, I can do this. And my other favorite thing to teach is some coping skills and learning how to deal with feeling sad or feeling mad or feeling worried, because I think that as adults and as kids, coping skills are really, really important. And self-talk is also a coping skill, so they kind of go together. So that is definitely my favorite, would be coping skills and positive self-talk.
When you're not teaching, when you're not being a social worker, what is your favorite thing to do?
Ooh. One of my favorites is going to the gym. I love exercising and getting my heart rate up. I love going for walks. I actually just started getting into running. I used to not like to run unless it was running for an ice cream truck, but now I like to run. And I also love going to the beach, and I go to this special spot where there's a bunch of big rocks, and I watch the sunset. That's my favorite. And I have Luke Skyhopper at home, so I spend a lot of time with him and watching him because he likes to chew on lots of wires. So I take care of my cat, my bunny, I see family. I do read books sometimes. Sometimes I get a little too sleepy when I read, so I'll stop. But I do like books at sometimes.
How do you motivate your students?
Ooh. I think I probably motivate them by using the positive self-talk. So I will model positive self-talk for them and say things like, you've got this, I know you could do hard things, this is tough, but you're tougher. And then I've noticed that the more that I say it to them, they start saying it back to me, right? So I think that using your words to motivate is one of the most amazing things. I also do have my little prize box and the PBIS points, which is always exciting too, keeps it different. But my favorite would be with positive words. I found that it just makes people feel good and confident, and it makes them believe in themselves.
One last question. I thought that Luke Skyhopper lived at the school. He lives at your house?
So that's a really good question. He lives at both. So on the weekends, he comes home with me because I don't want him to stay here for 2 days by himself. But during the week, he does sleep here. So he's always sleeping in my room, nice and comfy in his little cage. So he goes back and forth. He's a very busy bunny.
Bye. This is one of the interviews of the Tech Club. There will be more coming out soon.